The wind howled across the empty fields as Officer Mark Jensen stepped out of his patrol car, boots crunching over frostbitten grass under an overcast sky. Ahead of him, the old barn loomed like a ghost from another time, its wooden doors weathered and scarred, gaps wide enough for secrets to whisper through. But the sound that chilled Mark's spine wasn't the wind or the groaning wood. It was Rex, his loyal canine partner, standing rigid before the barn's doors, hackles raised, his mournful howl piercing the cold morning silence like a blade through silk. Something inside that barn was calling to Rex's instincts, something buried in shadows and splinters. And in that single, heart-stopping moment, Mark realized they weren't just on another patrol. They were about to uncover something that would change their lives, and perhaps heal wounds deeper than any scar. Before we go any further, if you believe in the power of kindness, in giving second chances, and in the loyalty that only an animal can offer, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe to our channel Justice on Paws. Your support helps us bring these real stories of courage and compassion to life. It hadn't been a good year for Mark. 2 decades on the force had worn down his faith in people. His wife, Emily, had left 6 months ago, unable to watch him drown in the darkness his work often brought home. Their daughter, Lily, only 10, seemed to grow quieter each time he came back late, smelling of rain, sweat, and disappointment. Rex, his German shepherd, was the only one who met him at the door with the same unshakable trust every night, tail thumping, eyes bright, never judging the man who fed him scraps of hope along with dinner. That morning call had come from a farmer on the outskirts of town, strange noises around the old Miller barn, abandoned since the last owner died. Most likely raccoons, maybe trespassers, nothing more. But as Mark watched Rex pour at the door, barking and whining in a tone he'd never heard before, he knew this was different. He tugged on the handle, nothing. He pressed his shoulder to the splintered wood. The door gave with a groan and swung open just enough for Rex to squeeze through. Mark's flashlight flickered across dust motes dancing in stale air. He stepped in behind Rex, boots echoing on the warped wooden floor. The barn smelled of mold and old hay, but underneath that, something sharper, rust, maybe blood. Rex was already ahead, nose pressed to the ground, body tense. He rounded a stack of rotting crates and stopped dead. Mark felt it then, his own heartbeat drumming in his throat as he rounded the same crates and froze. In the far corner of the barn, hidden behind broken boards and a pile of straw, lay a tiny figure. A boy. No older than Lily. He was curled up on a threadbare blanket, face hollow, hair matted with dirt and dried tears. His clothes hung off his frail body like rags. And yet, when the beam of Mark's flashlight landed on him, the boy's eyes fluttered open, wide, scared, but alive. Rex whimpered and stepped closer, tail wagging low, ears back. The boy's cracked lips formed a word Mark couldn't hear. He only saw the boy's tiny hand lift, fingers brushing Rex's fur as if it was the first warmth he'd felt in a lifetime. Mark knelt beside him, careful not to frighten him further. His mind raced. How long had he been here? Who had left him? Questions could wait. First, he scooped the boy into his arms. He felt lighter than Lily's school bag. Rex stayed close, sniffing the boy's face, letting out soft, encouraging huffs as if to say, "You're safe now. We found you." By the time the ambulance came, the sky had cracked open with sleet. Mark waited by the barn doors, Rex pressed against his leg. He watched the paramedics work, for lines, warm blankets, whispered reassurances that sounded thin in the cold air. The boy never let go of Rex's fur. Even as they lifted him onto the stretcher, his fingers stayed tangled in that thick coat until the last second. Mark saw something in that tiny gesture, trust born in darkness, a lifeline woven between scars. News of the boy spread fast. No one claimed him at first. He didn't speak for days, not to the doctors, not to the social worker who tried coaxing a name from him. But when Mark and Rex visited him in the hospital, a spark flickered behind those bruised eyes. He would sit up when Rex padded in, reach for him, bury his face in that soft fur and, for a moment, look like a child again, safe, unbroken. Mark came every night after his shift. He brought Rex each time, though the nurses protested at first. Rex would jump up on the bed gently, careful not to disturb the wires and beeping monitors. Mark would sit in the corner, watching the boy's eyes flutter shut, a tiny smile forming as Rex's steady breathing lulled him to sleep. Sometimes, Mark found himself telling the boy things he couldn't tell anyone else, about Lily, about how it felt to lose hope, about how sometimes, all it took was a loyal friend to remind you that the world could still be good. Weeks passed. The boy, who the nurses started calling Sam, slowly pieced his story together. Bits and pieces came out between Rex's visits, an uncle who disappeared one night, a mother who never came back from town, nights spent hiding from strangers who promised food but took something else instead. He had run until he found the barn, huddled there through rain and hunger, waiting for someone, anyone, to find him. It was Rex's howl that had pulled him back from the edge, that deep, bone-carrying cry that said, "Hold on. I'm here." Mark fought for Sam. When the system threatened to swallow him up, another forgotten name in an overcrowded home, Mark stood in that tiny hospital room, holding his daughter's hand, Rex pressed between them, and made a promise. He filed the papers, argued with the department, and proved to the judge that sometimes a broken man, a silent child, and a loyal dog could build something whole again. 6 months later, their house felt warmer. Emily hadn't come back, but she visited, her eyes softening when she saw Lily and Sam together, two children who needed each other more than words could say. Rex still waited by the door each night, tail wagging, eyes bright, but now there were two backpacks thrown by their hallway bench, two sets of laughter echoing down the hall. And Mark, who had spent years chasing shadows, finally found his light right there, curled up on the couch, head resting on Rex's flank, a boy named Sam drifting to sleep with no fear of tomorrow. So when people asked him why he still patrolled the old roads, why he still answered calls others would ignore, Mark would smile and say, because sometimes, you don't just save lives. Sometimes, you let a dog show you how to live again. If this story touched your heart, if you believe in the power of second chances, the bond between a man and his dog, and the strength it takes to heal broken souls, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Justice on Paws. Leave a comment below to tell us your own story of loyalty, kindness, or the animal who changed your life forever. Together, we can remind the world that sometimes, it takes for paws and a howl at an old barn door to bring the lost ones home.